My first acquaintance with the Ghost Recon series began 10 years ago with the exceptionally brilliant Advanced Warfighter. The series was noted for its deep strategy elements, smart AI, and an intriguing storyline that spanned across two fantastic entries. The Advanced Warfighter games didn't feature a huge open world, but instead they relied on tightly designed levels and an in-depth command system to rally your crew forward. The feeling of getting nailed down by the enemy suppressing fire while the player is hiding behind a wall or taking down a tank single-handedly when the chips are down, these are the kind of heart-pounding moments I expect from a Ghost Recon game. However, the latest iteration in the long-running series, Ghost Recon Wildlands, doesn't manage to capture the magic nor the essence of the earlier games. It's a drastic evolution of the series that's ditched its core values. That's not to say that Wildlands is a bad game, far from it actually, but is it a good Ghost Recon game? Well, let's find out. Wildlands is supposed to be Ubisoft's most ambitious game, and I can see that in the map size and the variety of environments. The game takes place in Bolivia, and boy, the world size is absolutely massive. Wildlands is by far one of the biggest open-world games you'll play this generation, but this is precisely where the game's biggest problem lies. The open-world genre is pretty much saturated at this point, and with games like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Breath of the Wild doing some amazing things in this space, there's very little room for error for other gaming brands. You can't just copy-paste the open-world formula to a series that isn't built on those pillars unless the gameplay is tuned in such a way that it suits the genre. Metal Gear Solid 5 is one such title that managed to achieve this transition gracefully. When you begin playing Wildlands, it's hard not to be taken aback by the scope and scale of the in-game world. But once I was done with the sightseeing for the first hour or so and started doing missions, I began to question the unnecessarily open-world structure of the game. Granted, there are several side missions such as chasing a convoy or helping out a local rebel member who are all scattered across the map, which may initially encourage you to explore the world. They all become a collection of mixed experiences after a while. Traveling from one location to another becomes quite painful, as there's nothing really interesting to do in between. In fact, once you access new areas within the map, the game provides you with fast travel spots which are unlocked from the beginning, unlike other open world games where the system forces you to reach to that spot before it can be accessed. This option may seem like a welcomed feature and it reduces travel time, but then why have such a huge map only for the game to unlock fast travel options without even reaching to that place? In short, the game's map is too bloated and seems unnecessary. As mentioned earlier, Ghost Recon Wildlands takes place in the year 2019. Your aim is to take down Santa Blanca, a Mexican drug cartel that is growing in influence in Bolivia so much so that its actions are affecting the United States. In order to take down this threat, the government initiates Operation Kingslayer, a joint operation between the CIA, DEA, and JSOC. Wildlands follows a on-the-go storytelling structure. Most of the plot will be revealed through radio conversations, and although there are cutscenes, they are few and far between. Bolivia is divided into different zones, and each of them is controlled by a central figure, which in turn is supported by several sub-figures. In order to kill the head of the Santa Blanca, the player needs to take down all the sub-bosses. I like this structure a lot, since it adds a bit of linearity, which makes the entire mission design structure less complex. The story, on the other hand, has a few interesting things to say if you're willing to give it time. In many ways, it shows the realities of the drug cartels and the threat they pose. It isn't groundbreaking by any means, but it does manage to keep itself on track instead of getting detracted, as is the case in many open-world games. The combat in Wildlands feels largely satisfying. The guns and the weight to them feel just about right, and the game doesn't shy away from providing the player with an arsenal of different weaponry, such as sniper rifles, assault guns, hand pistols, and more powerful items later in the game. Furthermore, you can customize each weapon according to your liking by collecting various accessories parts which are scattered across the world. This adds a level of dynamism to gunplay and an exploration factor should you wish to hunt for weapon parts. The enemy's AI is a bit of a mixed bag. I found the AI of enemies ranging from downright laughable to challenging, but the AI of your crew is far better than your foes. Although it's not perfect, they do a reasonable job of getting things done, especially when you're using the mark and shoot feature. However, this feature seems more like an exploit rather than something which should be used sparingly. I completed several missions just by relying on the mark and shoot feature. Enemies can be marked by using drones, binoculars, or just by using the gun's sight. The player and the crew only needs to be several meters away from a base, and just by issuing commands, the entire location can be cleared in minutes. Things become easier if you unlock a skill that allows multiple mark and shoot takedowns. Although I understand this is merely a different way to play this game, but given that this is an easy way out of a mission, I found this to be at odds with the gameplay mechanics. Situations where I should be using stealth or give commands to take out an enemy base, I instead relied on the mark and shoot mechanic. There are also some issues with stealth. In one particular mission, I had to remain undetected while I steal a truck. As the game seemingly puts emphasis on stealth, I actually decided to simply run towards the truck. And guess what? No one detected me, and I escaped with the truck in a few seconds. This is a glaring flaw, and it just makes things a lot easier and less challenging than it should really be. Wildlands has a host of vehicles that players can drive, but unfortunately the handling is disappointing. The vehicles just don't feel right, they'll slide for no apparent reason while pulling the brakes, or will move like a boat. There is no sense of speed, they're just there, serving the purpose of mere transportation. Fortunately, air and sea vehicles control much better and at the very least, save the vehicle mechanics of the game from turning into a disaster. Despite its noticeable flaws, Wildlands does three things exceptionally well. The character customization is in-depth with several options ranging from clothes, accessories, face type, and much more. To further improve your character, the game provides the players with an in-depth skill system, such as the ability to take on more bullets before you run out of health, unlock parachuting and grenade launchers, increase reaction time of your crew, and make the rebels smarter. But unlike the traditional skill system, the game requires you to tag and collect several collectibles along with XP for unlocking them. This further encourages exploration, just like in the case of weapon accessories. And thirdly, I highly recommend playing the game in co-op mode. The game allows 3 other ghosts to join your team. In my experience, the drop-in, drop-out feature for the co-op worked out really well, and I faced no connection issues whatsoever. You could drop in into co-op at any time during your playthrough, and matchmaking is fairly quick. Wildlands seems like a game that's tailor-made for co-op. The experience is at an altogether different level if you're playing with 3 other good players. Players can plan out stuff, complete different objectives, and strategize the best possible way to complete a mission, things which are simply not possible while playing solo. From a technical perspective, the game runs pretty well. We played the PS4 Pro version, and performance was largely locked to 30 FPS, with noticeable drops during explosions and intense situations such as convoy chases. The game looks reasonably good with the lighting tech as a standout feature. The world suffers from minor pop-ins and texture quality could have been better, but I guess that's a compromise for building such a massive open world. Unfortunately, just like most open-world games these days, Wildlands suffers from bugs such as clipping. I didn't come across something that could be classified as game-breaking, but minor glitches are annoying and should not be present to begin with. When I look back at Wildlands, I see a game with so much potential, and fortunately, some of that is realized quite well. Its unnecessary huge open world, lackluster stealth mechanics, and enemy AI will disappoint players, but there is ton fun to be had with the game's co-op mode and combat. However, I still think Wildlands has moved the series away from its core values. In the end, Wildlands is a decent open-world shooter game with some flaws. If you can overlook them and have some friends to tag along, it'll surely provide you with an intriguing and a rather long gameplay experience. That'll be it for this video. If you like what we're doing, please go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Opening fire.